49 people, double the free time they have in a day with nothing more than a pen and a notebook, no apps required.
Boom. And the 3,149 people, if you have the social proof, definitely use it. This is a fabricated one. Just make this. To be honest, I would buy this. I would buy this. Let me ask Blake. Yo, Blake, would you buy this?
Blake would buy this.
Blake, would you buy this?
Here's the checkout. Show me the
totally buy
goddamn link to the call to action. Let's get going. I'm ready to buy.
I
Take
knew
my money.
Yeah, there we go. Can you guys see how? Can you see how this is like very simple? Yeah, if you know the research, if you know the structure, then the copy is it just flows. It just flows into the structure. It flows into all the work you've done beforehand. Cool. Can you use on it? So one question is, can you use a landing page or an email instead of writing an entire copy of the product? I'm not exactly sure what the question is asking, but I'm guessing it's like, yes, you can. You can use a landing page or email to sell a product. It doesn't always. A landing page could be used to sell this product as well. Emails could be used to sell a product. There are more funnel things we'll get into a bit later in terms of how everything ties together. But right now we're just giving you guys the building blocks. So once you put it together, you know how each one works. Cool. Nope. Let's go into the next one. The empathy email. Empathy email. Empathy email, you start with an empathy statement. You show them that you understand what they are going through. You assure them it's not their fault. You validate their experience. You show you have similar values, and then you give them a way out. This is similar to the problem, agitate solution, but you start with empathy statements. You're a bit more expanded. You validate their experience, and you show you have similar values. So how does this look in terms of an actual email? Let's go. Let's read this. Ed, do you want to read this?
Hi, Peter. Have you noticed that things are just getting more expensive? It's not your imagination. U.S. inflation rates are going up. Inflation rates for gasoline is up 20%, and housing prices are set to double in the next 15 to 18 years, depending on how things play out. Or, if you live in Vancouver, like me, housing prices are doubling every 5 to 10 years, and it's uncertain if the rising prices are ever going to slow down. That's why I get pissed when I hear financial advisors tell you that you have to save. That's bullshit. They tell you to cut back on the morning coffee, stop going out with your friends, and don't go on that vacation with your family. So let's say you follow that advice. You save maybe a couple $100s every month, a few $1,000s a year. Is that going to help you buy a new house or pay for your kids' college tuition? And by the time you start spending the money you saved, inflation would have already made it worthless. That's why I say you don't have a saving problem, you have an income problem. The only way to beat inflation and secure your financial future is to increase your income. There's no way around it. If you want to find out how to beat inflation, here's what I tell my students. Many of my students have doubled their monthly income simply by following the instructions I laid out for them. And the thing is, it's such a simple plan, almost anyone can do it. I recorded a video for you to show you how. Watch it now and take notes. Dan Locke. P.S. The video will only be up for a short time, then I'll be taking it down in a couple weeks. So watch it while it's still up. Click here to see what I recorded for you.
Boom. This was an email we sent out, I believe, last year in October. It was one of our better revenue generating emails. It's a very good empathy email. And I'm about to break it down. Is there anything, Stephen, Blake, you guys want to say about this or the previous email, like before I break it down?
Good email, man.
Thanks. Cool. You ready for me to break down the empathy step by step, show you the structure of this? Great. Empathy statement. Have you noticed that things are just getting more expensive? Have you noticed that things are just getting more expensive? Yes. And if they say yes, that's good. Maybe if they're rich, we're not targeting them. They're like, I haven't really noticed things are getting more expensive, right? But if they say yes to the first sentence, do you think they'd be hooked to read the rest? Exactly. The first sentence of your email is very important in hooking them. All right. And that's first empathy statement. Different than the problem statement. You see how it's different than problem? It's not talking about a specific problem. It's talking about something in their experience, right? It's like, I know what you're I know what you're feeling, right? Next one, number 2, we validate. It's not just your imagination. It's not your imagination, right? If you're experiencing this, it's not your fault, right? It's like you're not alone. That's a validation, right? Make them feel it's okay to experience whatever they're experiencing. Cool. One question is it common to use questions as an empathy statement? It doesn't always have to be a question. It could also be, questions are usually better because you want them to answer the thing in their head. When you ask a question, people are automatically in their head come up with an answer. But when you come up with statements, sometimes it could work. Right now, I can't think of an example that we used. Most of the time, it is questions. Right? Validate. Then number 3, values. That's why I get pissed when I hear financial advisors tell you that you have to save, right? And between validate and values, the part in between is just more explanation for why it's not their imagination. It's expanding on the validation part, right? Yes, rates are going up, inflation rates are going up, housing prices are going up, it's doubling. You're just expanding on why it's not their fault, why it's not just imagination, why they're not alone. So then you go into the values. That's why I get pissed when I hear financial advisors tell you that you have to save. Right? Don't you get pissed when people tell you you have to save instead of earn more? So in this case, there's a statement. It shows you, hey, I have the same values as you. We have the same values. Right? If you're into saving, then we're probably not the same value. But this statement, it's deliberately polarizing. This is a statement that you'll either completely agree with me or completely disagree with me, but you won't be neutral. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Perfect. And one thing about values, it's once you have like the same value, if you know someone else has the same values as you, you automatically have a click with them, right? One of the reasons why Ed and I are so close when we were started. Ed, you want to tell this story? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man! So when Peter first started working for the team, besides the fact that I didn't recognize him at CIB because his photo looks so different than he does in person.
Anyways,
even though we've been working together for like, I don't know, like 5-6 months at that point. So me, Peter, and Steven would have these daily huddles. And so I was working for the team for a few months, I think 5-6 months, and then Peter joined. And I found out at the time that Peter was vegan, and at the time I was also vegan. So we really bonded over that. And actually, me and Peter, we went out for a I'm not vegan anymore, so don't be happy. Neither is Peter.
No.
So
Sorry, guys.
we went out for like a little brunch. I know it's cute. We went out for brunch. We had vegan food and we just bonded over that, right? So
Yeah.
we just shared the same bond, the same value of veganism, and that brought us really close together. And now we can bond over egg drop ramen.
Yeah.
So commonalities and values that you share with other people bring you together.
Yeah. And keep in mind, like Ed and I, we didn't really know much about each other at the time, other than we worked together. And then one fact, like at the time we were vegan. But because we had that same value that was so different from everyone else, it's not like having a value that every person has, like, oh, we both don't believe in murder, right? That's like a value everyone has. It has to be a specific value for your group.
Well, Peter, most people
Yes.
have that value anyway.
Most people, yeah. If you have a different value, then you'd be like in prison. But but because you show them you have the same values as them, it triggers subconsciously for them to feel like, oh, you're one of us. You're in my group. You're on my side. Right? Cool. Nope. And one thing is, we're talking about the title of these emails. We'll get into that. In fact, we'll probably have a bonus for that too. All right, let me just go into the next email first. Our next part of this, and it's the solution. Right. So we had empathy statement, validate, values, solution. And between the values and solution, it's again, it's expanding on why we have the same values. It's expanding on the first value statement, right? Hey, I'm just like you, and here's why I think we're alike, right? So you start asking them, you start showing them, and expanding on why you guys have the same values, right? Then you provide a solution. That's why I say you don't have a saving income problem, you have an income problem. The only way to beat inflation and secure a financial future is to increase your income. There's no way around it. If you want to find out how to beat inflation, here's what I tell my students. Okay? Does that make sense? Good. And this is more expanded solution. Many of my students have doubled their monthly income by following the instructions. And the thing is, it's such its own planet, was anyone can do it. I recorded a video for you to show you how. That's the solution. So let's help out our friend Chad one more time. One more time. Number one is what? What do we start off with in empathy email? Empathy, yes. I was about to call it empathy emails. There you go. All right. And keep in mind, this email is going to be deliberately very similar to the first PAS email because I want you guys to notice the difference in the structure. Right. So we're going to be keeping the same avatar, the same prospect, and the same call to action, same product. Okay. Empathy. Yeah. Write in the chat if you can come up with an empathy statement for Chad. Have you noticed you're working all day and every day, not getting anywhere in life? That could work. That could work. Great. All good stuff. Good stuff. Let's get into it. Empathy. Have you noticed that the world is just getting busier and busier? Simple. Blake, would this get you? Would this first line get you?
Nah. Yeah.
Well, it gets busier and busier. And if it's Chad, he is getting busier and busier. He's going to hook him right there. All right. And after empathy, what do we do? Validate. Exactly. We validate the experience. It's not your fault. You're not alone. All right. Put in some validation statements inside. Imagination. It's our imagination. It's reality everywhere. Yes, you're right. You're not alone. You're not alone. You'll see the same thing at work too. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff in the chat. All right. Validate time. It's not just your imagination. It's real and has nothing to do with you. If you guys read the one sentence persuasion, one of the things is you always want to make them feel like it's not their fault. But you don't want to always say, hey, it's not your fault directly, right? So you can say other things. Say, hey, it's real. It has nothing to do with you. Actually, there's actually just something you don't know about that's causing all this, right? Take the weight of the blame off of their shoulders and help them, yeah, exactly, justify their failures. That's how you persuade people. Cool. Ed, Blake, Student, has anything to add to anything here so far?
Just tell people what they want to hear, man. That's really the secret.
That's true. That's true. Great. Dope. What's after validate? Values. Values. And okay, come up with a value statement inside. Right. So how can you show them that you have the same value as them? Same values. You cherish the same things in life as Chad. I'm on your side, Chad. Don't worry. I know exactly how you're feeling. I have the same values. Right? What are the values there? How can you do it? Easy to get pissed off when you have so much work. That's good. We have the same enemy, Chad. Not that direct. That's what I do. Probably like you, I believe strong work-life balance. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. 20 more seconds. Good stuff in the chat. Good stuff in the chat. Okay. Let's go. Values. Blake, can I get you to read this one?
So many people will tell you to grind, to hustle 24/7, but is that really all there is to life? I don't think so. I want a life with fulfilling work, relationships, and most importantly, freedom.
Did I hit for you? Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff. So we have the empathy, validate, values. And finally, what's next? Solution. Exactly. Okay. Oh, before we move to solution, I'm going to explain this a little bit. Why I wrote it the way I wrote it. So many people tell you to grind and hustle 24/7, right? Again, where is this coming from? It's come from what Steven talked about, the zeitgeist. It's knowing what is being spread around in the marketplace. Exactly. We think about a certain person in the marketplace. I'm not going to say his name, but he talks a lot about hustle. Yes. Right. And knowing that in the marketplace, that's what they talk about, you can call it out in your values and be like, hey, I'm actually against that. And if you're with me, then we're in the same boat. We're on the same team. Right? So this also kind of like throwing rocks at your enemies. Right? And then you say, is that really all there is to life? I don't think so. And here's what I believe. Here's what I believe. I want a life with fulfilling work, relationships, and most importantly, freedom. Right? If you agree with this, right? Maybe some people don't like fulfilling work and relationships and freedom, right? Then that's fine. That's not people we want to attract, right? So with these value statements, you are going to repel some people, but you're also going to be attracting the right people to your message. Does this part make sense?
Isn't there an expression for that, Peter, where it's like, if people don't hate you, then they don't love you. And if there aren't people that love you, then they will never buy from you.
Yeah. And I love you, Blake.
I love you too.
Yeah, I got to say that being polarizing is pretty important. You have to make a stance a lot of times. And if you're somebody who cannot, right, if you're somebody who's also always a people pleaser, right, that's going to show in your copy as well. It's going to come through.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for the love of God, don't be a people pleaser. Like in emails, but also like in life. So, like, you know, one of my pet peeves are the people. So imagine this scenario: is a dude. He starts talking with a girl, and they're talking about music. The guy's like, "Yeah, I'm really into rap music. I love rap music." And the girl's like, "I don't know about rap music. I'm more into country." The guy's like, "Yeah. I like country too. I like country too."
God, I hate country.
Right? So being part of these value statements, be polarizing, know what you stand for, stand by your values, don't give up your values just to be liked by someone else.
You know what's
Right.
really powerful? Just to add on to this, you stand by your values, and then right after you say your values, you can say, if you don't agree with this, you can stop reading now. Do the takeaway.
Yes.
Have a firm stance on what you believe in. And literally tell them. You can literally tell them. If you don't, if that didn't just resonate with you, read my next email. This one isn't for you, or whatever it is.
Boom. Yes. That will make this even better, right? It's like, hey, I don't think so. I want a life with fulfilling work, relationships, and most importantly, freedom. And if that didn't resonate with you, you can read the next email. This is not for you.
Yeah, you can stop
Okay.
reading here. Don't waste your time. Go back to whatever you're doing.
Yes. And that divide, that stance, creates stronger attraction. Like Blake said, they love you more. And the people who hate you, they hate you even more. But the thing is, they were not going to buy anyway. So it doesn't matter how much they hate you, right? They're not going to be paying you. So why do you even care? Good. Okay. Let's go into next part. After values, it's what solution. How are we going to offer a solution to Chad? Yep. Okay, I started a debate in the about music in the chat. Guys, that's not the point. The point is just don't change what you like to please someone else. Missing the point there. Oh man. Good, come on, free book, stop seeing approval, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. Let's get to solution. That's why we developed a new training called the Digital Minimalist Productivity Hack. It has helped 3,149 people double the free time they have in a day. Nothing more than a pen, a notebook, and a notebook. No apps required. It's the same solution as the other one. The same solution. The reason why we're doing this is because showing you the difference between structure of the emails, not like even with the same building blocks, you can create different emails. Okay? Let's put it together. And Ed, can I get you to read this?
Hey, Chad. Have you noticed the world's getting busier and busier? It's not just your imagination. It's real, and it has nothing to do with you. There's so many people who will tell you to grind or to hustle 24/7. But is that really all there is to life? I don't think so. I want a life with fulfilling work, relationships, and most importantly, freedom. That's why we've developed a new training called the Digital Minimalist Productivity Hack. It's helped 3,149 people double the free time they have in a day with nothing more than a pen and a notebook. No apps required. You can get it here.
How did that hit for you? Boom. It's also a bit subtle. It sounds like problem, agitate, solution, but you're not agitating. You're validating what they're experiencing. You're showing them you have the same values, and then you're giving the solution. Do you guys see how this could be selling the same thing? You could be hitting the same pain points, but you'd be doing it in different ways. Right? Good. Perfect. And one question is, why such a specific number? Okay, specificity is always preferred over generalizations, except in some special cases where you're writing specificity is good when you want it to be believable. Sometimes you want to just round it off to be if it's part of a bunch of other numbers, just to show off. But in terms of this, specificity is credibility, right? Being specific, imagine like it's helped 3,149 people as opposed to it's helped over 3,000 people. Personally, my gut, my little bronze silver gut tells me that it's 3,149 works better. Cool. Does that answer the question? Nice. Good stuff. The last email, story email. All right. Actually, before we get into story email, do you guys have anything else to add, Ed, Stephen, Blake, to the previous two?
Nah, man, you've done a great job.
Dope.
I think this is really cool.
This is the last one. All right. Story email. This is the most, my favorite email to write, but also takes the longest to write and a lot more skill to write. It's a lot more effective. And I love story emails because stories bypass the conscious filters you have in your head. When you tell a story, people don't assume you're gonna be selling them something. Right. So the other day I was talking with Ed and we were having like a chat in the kitchen table, and he was telling me something really interesting. He telling me something about the HIC students and what he didn't really understand about like the HIC students. And I asked him like, okay, what is that? Can you guess what he said? No. Okay. That was just an example of a story. That was an example of a story to get you to the point. All right. It's the curiosity. The curiosity. Notice how when you tell a story, there's like almost no filter for this. You're just basically drawn into it. Right. I'm sorry to you guys an open loop. You guys aren't weird. You guys aren't anything. I didn't say anything bad about you guys. He loves you guys. So my apologies for unethically using that. Great. So how you do a story email, and I'll tell you a bit more about how to actually tell a story a bit. But you tell them a story, you link it to the offer, and then you can do a call to action. All right. So let's get into it. When you tell a story, here's what you need to include into your story to make it a golden story. All right. Number one, for a story to work, You need to have a time and place. You need to have a time and place. What do all fairy tale stories start with? What's that line? Once upon a time. Once upon a time. Once upon a time in a land far, far away. What is that? In a galaxy far, far away. Exactly. Star Wars too, right? It's the time and place. Once upon a time, the time, in a land far, far away. That's a place. Simple, right? Time. 2 weeks ago, we were at dinner at a restaurant with Sifu. And he was telling us about this thing, right? Time, place. Draws you immediately into it. Very simple. You tell, and then the Fire Nation attacked. All right. Time and place. A few years ago, Steven and I were at a coffee shop. We were both working together, and we saw this weird person come up to the store. And right, another example. Time and place. Number 2. Wait, before I move on, first one, time and place. That makes sense.
I just want to expand on what you're saying, Peter. The time and place, if anybody has like a playwriting background, what happens is that your mind, like it sets up the environment and the setting of the story, right? And when you do that, immediately, it kind of sets the stage, right? So like using the Chad example, imagine if I tell you, it's 11:45 and Chad was the only person left at the office. So you got the time, right? 11:45 p.m. Place, office, right? What do you imagine in your head?
Immediately visualize the place. I imagine him like stressed in office, dark,
lonely.
Yeah, he's leaning back on his little wheelie chair, and then he's like, hand on his head, right? Just setting the time and place.
I imagine one of those like downtown buildings where there's only one level with the lights on, one light on, and that's Chad. Time and place.
Time and place. And it's all you need to get into a story. All right, first part. Does that make sense for you? Yeah. Does that make sense for you? Good. Number 2. You need a goal and conflict. Every good story, the character is trying to achieve something, but they're being stopped by something else. They have a goal, but there's also a conflict. Right? Notice in every good story, in every good movie, can you even name a movie without conflict? Can you name any movie without a villain, without a relationship struggle, without financial struggle? No. Conflict, or if you want to think about it as a problem, that's also good too. A good story needs to have a problem or it's conflict, or else it's not going to have that flair, right? If the 3 little pigs were a story and there was no wolf, it would not be a good story. If the Little Red Riding Hood didn't have the big bad wolf, it would not be a good story either. You need the conflict, you need a goal for them to achieve. Does that part make sense? Goal and conflict. Right. Number 3, the story. You need a resolution and moral of the story. A resolution to a story and a moral of the story. So resolution, the conflict is resolved. You solve the problem. Moral is, okay, what was the lesson of that story? What happened as a result? What was there a transformation? Right? Did they learn a lesson? Are they not going to do something ever again? Have they learned that something is more important now? That family is more important than money? What's the moral of the story? Right? If you don't have resolution or moral of the story, at least in the emails, it's not going to work out. I know there are TV shows where they leave you on cliffhangers and there's ambiguous morals and stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about simple stories we're writing here. And there's one question: should a story be true event? If you can, it's always better to have it as a true event from your prospect. Or you can also paint a hypothetical one, like we did for the two men graduated from college, the Wall Street one. You know, that's part of the fabricated story. So it doesn't always have to be true. Make sense? Good. All right, let's go into an example of a story email. Are you ready? Sick. Title is Chipped Tooth, Scarred Chin, and the Secret to Taking Control of Your Life. When I was in high school, 3 big guys took me out into the high school courtyard and kicked the shit out of me. They kicked me in the face and chipped one of my front teeth. They left a scar on my chin that you can still see today if you look closely. But that's not the worst part. They took away my confidence. They made me afraid of the world, afraid to go to school in the morning, afraid of strangers. I started entering school from hidden side doors. I wanted to avoid these guys any way possible. But one day I thought to myself, this isn't the way I want to live my life. I don't want to hide forever. That's when I decided there would be no more of this. That's when I decided to learn martial arts. I started practicing Wing Chun. Now, if you don't know what Wing Chun is, it's a martial art style you see in Ip Man movies. Wing Chun was first developed by a female because she needed a way to defend herself against a larger opponent, which is perfect for me because of my 110-pound frame at the time. The earlier generations of Wing Chun users were assassins. It was designed to end the opponent or end the fight within seconds. One of the first major principles you learn in Wing Chun defies all human instincts. It's this: only attack, don't defend. This goes against all natural human instinct because when you're attacked, the natural instincts fall back, cower, and protect yourself with arms covering your head. However, this is the position you find UFC fighters in before they lose. This is the position I found myself in as the 3 bullies took turns kicking me in. But in Wing Chun, you don't fall back when attacked. You do what your attacker least expects. You step forward. You step forward into the trap range and go for the throat. Before they can react, the fight is over and they're choking on the ground. This was one of the first principles of Wing Chun I learned. After a few more months of training, I was no longer scared of the bullies. I knew how to take care of them. The funny thing is, after I started practicing Wing Chun, those 2 guys stayed away from me. It's as if they could sense my newfound skills and confidence and knew that I wouldn't take any more BS from them. Now, what does this story have anything to do with you? You see, when facing a problem in life, our natural human instinct is to play defense. All the conventional advice you hear tells you to play defense, to save, to conserve, to play it safe. Financial advisors tell you to skip the lattes, pinch pennies, and make the most of what you have. But sometimes playing defense will only leave you cowering on the ground with life kicking your face in. Sometimes the only way out is fight back. Sometimes the only way out is to say enough is enough and go on the attack. That's why I call BS on financial advisors who tell you to penny pinch, save up, and wait 40 years before you can have a moderately comfortable retirement. That's why I teach my students go on the offensive, not the defensive. This goes against all human natural instinct. Instead of saving what you have, why not go out and earn more? Instead of pinching pennies, why not capture more dollars? Instead of waiting years with no certain payoff, why not create the life you want now? No, don't defend. Sometimes the only way out is to attack. Dan Locke. P.S. For those who found this helpful and want more, I put together a 4-day training that gives you the skill you need to attack life head on instead of cowering away from it. Get access to it here. It's free, no credit card required. Go through the training. Leave a comment if you found it valuable. You'd be surprised for results when you apply it in the field.
Mic drop.
Oh, this was one of my favorite emails I wrote, actually. Love it. There's some, I would do some things different now when we're mature, but
Damn good.
Yeah. What do you guys think of that email?
One thing I noticed in the comments is that, as we're going through these emails and the stories, I see in the comments that we have students that say, I remember this story.
Mm,
Isn't that crazy? It's like, to me, that's just insane. It's like, there's so many stories that, everybody goes through and so many different things that go in and out. But that's the power of a good story. It just prints, gets like hard coded, gets branded onto your brain. It's like you just can't forget it.
yeah. Oh, later, Steven, I want to talk about the story that everyone remembers you for.
I know, right?
We'll talk about it a bit later. I have a slot set for that.
Sure.
We'll
Okay.
talk about it a bit later. But do you guys see this story email? How if you sent a good one like this every day, people won't get tired of it. People love reading stories. People love being entertained, educated. People love hearing stories. Like at all during this point of the email, did you feel like we were selling you? Did you feel like, oh my God, there's a salesperson? No, it's under the radar. It's sharing something. It's sharing value. It's value driven. It's not pitch heavy. It's giving them a lesson, example in life, or a lesson in life. So if you can learn to craft story emails like this, it takes a bit more skill, it takes a bit more practice, but I think almost anyone can do it if they learn the structure, they learn the flow of it. So let's break it down. You guys ready to break it down?
By the way, I'm just curious, who would be interested in just a training in just storytelling? Because this is a very, very high level, but very, 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 very powerful one. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Stories are so freaking important. And by the way, I always thought I was not a storyteller. Always thought stories are just for that one charismatic friend who has all the other friends like encapsulated when they're speaking. That one charismatic friend who's like, oh yeah, something crazy happened this weekend. You should hear about it. Because I was a more introverted and shy person. So I thought, he's a natural storyteller. But really, it's a very learnable skill. It's a very learnable skill. All right. Cool. You guys ready to break it down? Boom, boom, boom. Let's break it down. Time and place. Actually, one thing before we get into it. You guys notice a lot of white space there, and there's excuse me. You know how it's very thin in terms of the margins? Do you guys know why that is? Mm-hmm. So read, loans, got it. Yes. Very simple answer. 1, it's easier to read. 2, it's much easier to read on the phone. Because when you're on the phone and you're opening this, you can only fit the width of what your phone has. So when you're writing these, always think about the user experience of the person receiving it. When you're writing landing pages, ads, right, emails, chatbots, always be aware of the medium that you're sending it to them, right? A word is not a word. A word is different on a script versus on a blog versus on an ad versus an email. Okay, that's one thing. Does that make sense? Dope. Cool. And first one, time and place. When I was in high school, time and place. 3 guys took me out into the school courtyard, kicked the shit out of me. All right? That's time and place. Can you, within the first sentence, can you imagine it? Can you visualize it? Yes. Create a picture. We've already bypassed the conscious filters. Right? We're getting into the story now. Goal and conflict. The goal, well, the conflict is introduced first. So they kicked me in the face, chipped one on the front tooth. They left a scar on my chin. You can still see it closely today if you look closely. But that's not the worst part. The conflict. They took away my confidence. They made me afraid of the world, afraid to go to school in the morning, afraid of strangers. I started entering school from hidden side doors. I want to avoid these guys any way possible. We're introducing the villain. The bullies are the villain. We're the character. We're trying to get something, right? Our goal. Here's where our goal comes in. But one day I thought to myself, this isn't the way I want to live my life anymore. I don't want to hide forever. So now I'm learning Wing Chun. That's my goal, right? My goal is to not be afraid of these bullies anymore. And then there's conflict. Does this part make sense? The goal and conflict. Okay, good. So now, the next part is, it's actually not included in it's more optional, but there's more education, right? So after the values and education, because some people might not know what Wing Chun is, so I had to explain it, right? So we start saying, hey, if you don't know what Wing Chun is, it's a martial arts style you see in that movies. And you have to explain to them what it actually is. And it's also entertainment because if they're interested in this, they're like, oh, that's a cool piece of knowledge, you know? So it's an entertainment on top of education. And one thing is, you don't want to always assume that people know what you're talking about. So imagine if I said I started practicing Wing Chun and that I just didn't explain it at all, and I just went straight through the story. It loses a lot of impact, right? Loses all impact. Always think from the point of view of your reader when you're reading the story, right? So the education part. If you don't know what Wing Chun is, the martial arts you see in that movies, it was first developed by a female, which is perfect for me because of my 110-pound frame at a time. The earlier generations of Wing Chun users were assassins. It was designed to end the opponent or fight, in the fight within seconds, right? One of the first major principles was only attack, don't defend. This goes against natural human instinct because when you're attacked, it's to fall back, cower, and protect your arms. But that's a position you find UFC fighters before they lose. This position I found myself in as the 3 bullies took turns kicking me in. Okay. Then it goes into a solution. After a few more months of training, I was no longer scared of the bullies. I knew how to take care of them. And then the resolution happens. The funny thing is, after I started practicing Wing Chun, those 3 guys stayed away from me. It's as if they could sense my newfound skills and confidence and knew that I wouldn't take any more BS from them. So now the resolutions happened. The conflict is solved. But if we just ended it there, without the next part, now what does the story have to do with you? The so what? It would not be as powerful, right? Like if we ended the email here and just said, Dan Locke, do you think the reader would be like, oh yeah, that makes sense? Or do you think it'd be more like, okay, I guess I just read that for nothing. Like, so what? Right, so now we build it up. It'd be a weak ending. Yep, anticlimactic, exactly, loses impact. Now, but then we tie together with the moral of the story, right? And one easy way to do this is just exactly how I do it here, right? You tell them a story and you say, now, what does the story have anything to do with you? And then you explain it, right? You tell a story. So I want to give a quick story example, but it's going to take too long. So just stick with this for now. After you tell them the story, just say, now, what does the story have anything to do with you? You see, when we face a problem in life, our natural human instinct is to play defense. All conventional advice you hear tells you to play defense, to save, to conserve, to play it safe, right? And then you transition into how it works. And if you notice the bottom part, financial advisors, everything here, it's almost the exact same as the empathy email, where we talk about after we talk about our values, we say, oh, financial advisors tell you skip the lattes, pinch pennies, and make the most of what you have. It's the same lesson, but we added a story before it. right? The story for it gives them entertainment. They bypass filters. They're more likely to say what we have now, right? Does this make sense? Yes. Right. Can you see, like, if we just started this email without the now what does the story have to do with you? We just say, hey, you know, financial advisors tell you skip a lot. Hey, pinch pennies and make the most of what you have. Well, I disagree with them. Here's why. It's too blunt. It's too brute, and you already know exactly what they're going to say. It doesn't give people the aha moment. It doesn't give people the epiphany. It doesn't give them any value. So that's the difference here. Okay. Can you guys see like why stories are so valuable now? Nice. Good. And then you get call to action, right? You tell them a story, you link it to your offer, and then you give them call to action. So now you might be thinking, okay, great, Peter. You told me how to tell a story email, but problem is I'm not really good at telling stories. How many of you are thinking that right now? Are you thinking that right now? A little bit. Okay. Don't worry, I've got some dope slides for you. It's questionable. Doubts. Boom. Let's talk about 3 quick storytelling tips. This is the Swiss Army knife you need to use, handy for any situations. Right? But before I get into it, like Steven, Ed, Blake, do you have anything to chime in on? Last section?
Man, you did such a good job. What can I say?
Thank you, my man. All right.
Just keep going. You're on fire, man.
Okay. So, Steven, this is going to be the part where we talk about your story, by the way.
All right,
You
cool.
know what I'm talking about? So, 3 quick storytelling tips. Number 1, be specific. How many times have I said be specific on this class already? I think I've said it almost as many times as I've said be dope. Hey, specificity, because generalizations kill. Okay. Have you watched this video on Steven's channel where Steven presented? He was talking about copywriting. How many of you have seen that video? How many of you have heard that story in the beginning? Okay. All right, Steven, I don't know if your girlfriend's watching, but do you want to tell a story of how we were talking about it? So, how we crafted that speech?
Well, basically, this was a couple of years ago. I remember specifically, I actually met Peter in a Toastmasters class. So he was practicing public speaking. I wanted to get better at public speaking. So when the opportunity came up to speak on Sifu stage, I was like, all right, I'm going to teach about copy. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And basically, the way I was thinking about it was like, you know what? I could go on stage. I could, talk about all these different tactics and things like that. But what's the point of that, right? Might as well practice what I preach, which is story, right? Story is one of the most powerful ways you can persuade and also teach as well. So basically, I thought about, okay, what's a good story? And I just remember this one time where basically, this was before I became a copywriter. I was writing copy without even knowing it, right? The message I wanted to drive home was basically that, you don't have to be like a super crazy trained copywriter. You could actually get started with copyright pretty easily. So not going to get into the story. So you can watch that YouTube video. It's a great story. But what happened was after that video went on YouTube, basically everybody who came up to me for years later, they're like, oh, I watched your YouTube video on Sifu Danlock's channel. And they're just like, by the way, how's that girl that you were talking about in that story? Basically in that short talk that I did, nobody remembered anything that I taught about copy except for the story that I told. That's the power of storytelling. Like really, nobody remember a single thing. I barely even remember what I talked about, right? But everybody remembered that story so clearly. That's the power of a good story.
Yeah, like what happened in the end? What happened in the end with her? Well, like everyone's like wondering.
Years later, I'm like, what the hell? Why are you still asking me this?
Yeah.
I know, Stephen, I asked you too.
It's one of the FAQs.
Yeah, on the Steven's website. So what happened with, and then he would. Steven in that story, if you listen to it, he used a lot of what we talked about here in terms of 3 quick storytelling tips, right? Steven did really well in number 1, being specific, right? What do I mean by this? So, trying to be, how do I use a good example? Okay. Imagine you go on a traveling trip, let's say to Europe, and then you come back, you're like, oh, how was it? You're like, yeah, it was good. I went to a lot of places. I ate a lot of food, met a lot of people. It was a pretty good atmosphere, pretty good vibe. I'm doing it. Overall, pretty good time. Right. So, so that would be overgeneralization. You wouldn't be pulled into the story, right? But if you instead start being more specific, yeah, when I was in Barcelona, Spain, I woke up around like 11 a.m., went to this dingy little small cafe on the corner of one of the busiest streets, and sat sipping cappuccino, and there were people walking by. There were old people with their grandsons, grandpas with their grandkids, coming in and out of the coffee shop. It was busy. There were like tons, like probably 20 taxis out on the street, honking. So when you describe it specifically, the story becomes more alive to people, right? The details help the visualization. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Good. All right. Number 2 is use dialogue. Use dialogue. Pull your reader into the story. When you use dialogue, it's it's a lot easier, right? So opposed to saying, like, I learned this one really valuable lesson from Sifu, and it was this. You say, so I was sitting at a dinner table across from Sifu. I asked him, Sifu, what's one regret you've had that you wish you could take back? And he looked at me and he said, Peter. Okay, that didn't actually happen, but I'm just saying, using dialogue. That's how you would. That's how you introduce a lesson. That's how you would introduce a lesson, using dialogue. All right.
Now imagine Peter just said, "Oh, the biggest lesson I got from Sifu was this." How boring would that be compared to the story he just told?
Yes. Weave your lessons, weave your message into a story, weave what you're selling into a story, right? And actually, we were talking about bulletproof coffee before in terms of storytelling. Do you guys know the story behind bulletproof coffee and why it's like so popular? No. All right. So a story, if you go on their website, it's, so I've always been drinking coffee. I have like low energy. And I wanted one trip to the Appalachians. And there were these people who were living on top of the mountain. And it was cold. We were high altitude. I was shivering. And they came to me with this drink. And inside the drink, it was filled with yak butter. I drank the drink and I had the most amount of energy I could ever feel. My body warmed up. I was energetic. I felt alive. I was mentally clear and lucid. And I thought there was something to this. So I went back. I did research on coffee, and I invented my own bulletproof like coffee with the butter. Right. And that's how it came up. Right? So that's the story, right? He went to the top of the mountains. These yak people gave him this yak butter coffee, and that's how he discovered it, right? As opposed to saying, "Hey, here's some coffee with butter. It's better for you." There's a story behind it. That's what sells the coffee. That part makes sense? Cool. Last part, number 3. We're getting close to the end almost. All right. Interact with the reader throughout the story. Don't go into monologue mode, right? So monologue mode, meaning, hey, so here's what happened to me, here's what happened to her, and then I did this, and I did that, and I said this, and I said that, and here's what he said to me, and I blah, blah, me, and then here's what I did, right? Interject with you statements. So what I mean by you statements in the beginning, it's, hey, so here's what happened to me. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever experienced that? It's so annoying, right? So here's what happened. And you did this and did this. And you know how sometimes people do this, right? The conversation tone, you're saying you're interacting with the reader. You're saying, hey, are you experiencing this? Do you experience the same thing we do? Right? Does that part make sense? This is a huge tip, by the way. This is one I had a lot of trouble with. Good. And to answer the question, ask a question as with a you statement, right? With a you in it. Ask a question that involves them into the story. Cool. All right, guys, we're entering the last part of the session. We are exiting emails. Steven, Ed, Blake, do you have anything to say about it? Anything to add to the last part of the emails?
Nothing to add, man.
All right. Great, guys. Cool. Guys and gals, when you're writing copy, when you're trying to link one sentence to the next, do you have trouble? Is it chunky? Are you finding it hard to link ideas together? You find it's some ideas just don't click. You know what building blocks of what sentences you want in there, but they just don't connect the way you want them to, and it doesn't make sense. Do you have these problems? Good, right? That's natural. That happens. How you get rid of it is you edit. And I'm going to be showing you today introduction to 3 editing tricks to make your copy flow smooth like butter, like yak butter. Not bulletproof coffee, but it's going to flow pretty smooth like water. All right, let's get started. Number 1, use short sentences and paragraphs. Short sentences and paragraphs. When you have too long of paragraphs, they become harder to read. The ideas become harder to follow. And when we say use short sentences and paragraphs, I mean keep it to one idea per sentence, ideally, or one idea per paragraph. That way, it makes it easier to read, easier to mentally process, right? And when you're writing copy, it's okay for your copy to be long, but it can't be long-winded. Can't be long-winded. It's okay to be long if it gets a point across, it helps to sell, but it's not okay to be long-winded, as in you're writing words that contribute nothing to the message, that contribute nothing to your offer, that contribute nothing to what you're trying to sell. Communicate. Okay? Yes. Long-winded means you're saying a lot of words, but doesn't really mean anything. Great. Fluff. All right. And these are just quick editing tips, right? Doing this will give you probably like 80% of your copy better. Number 2, read your copy out loud. Read your copy out loud. All right. So why do we have to read out loud versus reading in our head? See how it sounds? Perfect. Cool. Here's why. When you read it in your head, sometimes your mind mentally skips over things that doesn't click. When you read it, your mind will just mentally skip over parts of the copy you wrote that didn't make sense. It will make it make sense in its own way. But when you read it out loud, you will verbally trip over parts that do not flow, like an uneven path. When you read things out loud, you will verbally trip over parts that do not flow. And this is so simple. This is like my Saitama, the 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups regimen. I say this, people won't do it. They're like, oh, it's too simple. It's too simple. It's not, like, it is simple, but it works. So just do it. Okay? And in fact, I challenge you guys to go back to the copy that you've written in the past, so far for the past 4 weeks. Read it out loud and see where you would change. See what you would change. Edit the piece of the copy you've already written. Right? See how editing it will turn into a much better piece of copy. Cool. Does number 2 make sense? All right. Put dope in the chat. That made sense. Dope. Boom. Number 3, use transitions. You guys are going to want to take notes for this one. If you don't want to wait for a replay, get your note taking out right now. All right. Transitions. How do you link an idea that's seemingly different to another idea? How do you link from paragraph to paragraph without it sounding like hitchy or chunky or choppy? Transitions. We're going to be using transitions. Transitions are like the links, or you see those train tracks, not train tracks, those trains, and how they're different sections and they're linking to each other. The little hooks, the links. Wagons. I'm not a train person, so that might not be the best analogy. Okay, good. Let's look at transitions. Here's going to be a list of lifesaver transitions. You're going to be using this every day in your copy. All right. Number 1, you see, that's why this is not. So Steven told me I need to do this. And you see, I don't usually listen to people when they tell me to do stuff, but because I respect Steven so much, I did it. Right? You see the part. This is where very key one. I use this a lot. Right? Number 2. Anyways, this is what happens when you use this, when you're kind of going off on a tangent, and then you want to bring it back to the main point. Right? So you say, so yeah, Ed and I, we went to the gym, we lifted, we felt great, we came back home. Anyways, the point is, when you feel bad, just go to the gym anyways. You're going to feel great. Right? So use anyways to bring back from a tangent you're making in your copy. So, number 3, so use this when you're looking for a way to continue something, where you're trying to continue the point. Like, maybe here's an example. I wanted to increase my financial confidence. So here's what I did. It kind of explains what happened in the previous sentence. Right? Number 4. And, right? Just and, very simple. Add a thought on top of a thought, and stay with me. Right? Guys, I know this is a long class, but stay with me. Here's more to come. It's going to be great. You're going to know exactly why. Cool. Here's a question you might be wondering. I'm going to go through a bit more of these. Here's a question you might be wondering. Well, Peter, why are you even teaching me all of this? So, right, so that'd be that one. Next one. So let me start from the top. This happens, this is what you use when you want to recapture some point or re-emphasize a point you made. Right, and then, so here's the thing. You usually use this when you want to transition into the call to action, or you want to transition into the offer. Right? So here's the thing. We have this offer. We just created for you. Here's what it is. Blah, blah. So here's the thing. We created a digital minimalist productivity pack, and here's what it is. Right? This is page 1. Page 2. Want to know a secret? Want to know a secret? And then you tell them the secret. Right? Oh my God. I hope you guys are taking these down. Like I took so long to dig these up out of the copy vault. I don't know where else you guys will find these, to be honest. I did parts of this, Steven, I pulled this from like years ago. I think something you shared with me and Ed. It's like the bridge brigades. Yeah. Cool. Want to know a secret? Then, okay, enough background. Let's get back to business. Third one, and here's the big part I don't want you to miss. And you reemphasize the benefit after this. Okay? Then let's be more precise. Let's be more precise and go more into the offer you're talking about. All right? Then let's jump in. The weird thing about that is then you want to explain about an unconventional part of what you're talking about, right? So it's like, you see this Wing Chun email. It's like, yeah. Then after a few months, I learned about Wing Chun, and I learned how to take care of the bullies. The weird thing about that is they stopped coming up to me. So, right now you may be thinking, especially when you're saying something, when you say something where you know there's gonna be an objection, right? It's like, yeah, I found a new method to double your free time. Now you may be thinking that's ludicrous. There's no way that's possible. Okay? And then, but is when you want to make when you make a point and you want to make a counterpoint, right? Most gurus tell you to hustle 24/7, but here's what they don't tell you. All right, and the last page, are you guys ready for the last page of transitions? Good, good. Boom. Come on, don't worry. Don't worry. Number 2. You see what I mean? Financial advisors telling you to pinch pennies, save on the lattes. And that just doesn't really vibe me because it doesn't make sense to save instead of to earn. You see what I mean? Good. Now, why am I telling you all this? Goes back to the story after Wing Chun. So what does the story have anything to do with you? Why am I telling you all this? Relay it back to the person. I'm about to show you an unusual breakthrough. I'm about to show you an unusual breakthrough. Why? The answer is simple. Now we're about to offer all HIC students this new productivity training. Why? The answer is simple. The more you succeed, the more we succeed. Then, last one. And that's when it happened. I sat down on at the kitchen table, and that's when it happened. I learned the biggest lesson of the week. Great. And these are just a list of transitions I personally use. There are definitely a lot more out in the marketplace. I know Ed, Steven has a lot. But here are just the core ones we use. This is the 80%. Sorry, this is the 20% that gives you 80% of results. Cool. Boom. Okay. It's a bonus number 4. Do you guys want to number 4 tip? All right. We're almost at the end. This is gonna be good. This editing tip is very a bit more advanced and nuanced, right? There's a bit more advanced and nuanced. There are simple applications to this, but there are also deeper, advanced details to it. I can't quite teach in in the time we have today, but let's just get into it. Bonus number 4: keep thoughts incomplete. Keep thoughts incomplete. Here's what I mean by it. There are 2 kinds of information. There's complete information, and can you guess what the other information is? Other type of information is? You got it. You got it. Incomplete information. There are 2 types of information in the world. There's complete information and there's incomplete information. Which one do you think interests humans more? Boom, you got it. Incomplete information. This is the reason why people love solving jigsaw puzzles. All right, when you solve a jigsaw puzzle, what actual benefit are you getting? You're getting satisfaction. You're getting satisfaction, but from what? What is satisfaction coming from? Exactly. From completing it, from solving the problem, for solving the incompleteness of it. Right? That's why incomplete information is always more valuable when you're writing copy than it is when you have complete information. Of course, you always, to not piss off your readers or your prospects, you do want to close the open loops when you can. So everyone's talking about Steven's story as incomplete. All right, we'll leave that. Let's not talk about it. There's 2 kinds of information: complete and incomplete. All right. How you apply it to your copy is the simple part is where it makes sense. End your sentences with ... This will indicate a pause in your copy. Do not overuse it. You don't want to use your ... too often. So ... it's like ellipses. So at the end of the sentence, I'll show you what the difference is. All right. She told me the news. She told me the news. Do you see the difference here? Different effect. All it is punctuation, right? Told me the news. She told me the news. There's a pause, right? Different. Completely different tone just because of the simple two dots, how you write it. All right. Does that make sense, guys? Cool. Exactly. All right. And the thing is, you don't want to use this because you don't want to use this. You don't want to overuse this because then your copy starts sounding like I was at the gym yesterday. And then this happened. The clerk looked at me and she scanned my card. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. Right? You sound a bit discombobulated. So do not overuse it. And here's how you can tell if you're overusing it. Tip number 2, editing tip number 2. What was that? What was editing tip number 2? Yes. Read it out loud. Every time you see the ellipses, pause 2 seconds. Pause 2 seconds when you see it. Then you'll start seeing where you're having verbal trips when you're reading out loud. Okay? Cool. Sounds good. And more advanced application of this is you don't always need to use ... It could be a complete sentence, but it can be an incomplete thought. Right? You don't need to always use ellipses for incomplete thought. You could have a complete sentence, could be an incomplete thought. So, an example. Then he showed me a concept that would change my life forever. That would forever change my life and how I make my money. Right? This is a complete sentence. But let's say there was a next paragraph. Would you want to read it? Yes. Right. Exactly. And then here's where you use the transitions. Use the transit. Then he showed me a concept that would forever change my life and how I make money. But here's the weird thing. They also change, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't want to spew. I'm a slow learner. I'm a slow copywriter. I'm not a spit off the cuff type of copywriter. So that's the example. Does that make sense? Boom, boom. You guys are awesome. All right. That concludes our lesson today. I want to review, put in the chat. What was your main takeaway? Main takeaway from class 5? Yes, ads and chatbots are next week.
If they go through all that, they're already asking about the pillars.
Yeah, actually, ads and chatbot. We're learning that right now. It's going to be another 7 hours.
All right. Now that's part 1 done. We're going into part 2 for the night, folks.
Yes.
Or
all right, get your bio breaks done.
Thank you all for hanging in there. And thank you very much, Peter, for totally blowing all of our minds, even some of us behind the scenes here. And I hope that you guys really do not take what Peter just shared with you for granted. And with that said, Peter, let's go into the
let's go do homework.
assignments.
Assignments. All right. But I'm just going to say thank you to Ed as well. Steven, super awesome, right? Like Steven provides so much insight. Ed as well, because we're so in the trenches, right? There's so many insights that each one of us can share that like the other won't. So yeah, Ed, Steven, you guys want to share a word before we get into the assignments? Ed?
I was waiting for Steven to go first because I thought he'd jump in.
You go first.
All good, man.
All right.
There's a lot to take in. Just review the video when you can. We're giving you everything you can. Like the 7 week, we're making this the most valuable copywriting course in the world, and really, it's gonna fast track your growth. Right. So, review and re-listen, and you absorb something new every time.
Nice.
That's so true. And if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, that's okay. Remember, it's better to be overwhelmed than underwhelmed. And to keep moving forward with vigor, to keep doing your daily assignments, which we'll get into in just a second here, and to really take what Peter and the rest of the team just shared with you tonight to heart, because this is really this is what's going to get you paid.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff before, that's the important stuff, but in the eyes of your client, this is the stuff that's going to get you paid. So it's very important that you rewatch the classes and you take notes and really do your best to internalize what we've discussed here tonight.
Yeah. You guys, stay till the end. I have an important announcement today. Important announcement after the assignments. Very important. All right. Stay for the last 5 minutes. Okay. Number 1. Every day, read your HIC creed and affirmations. Hand copy the HIC creed once a day. Start your morning with the attitude of gratitude video. In the middle of the day, watch the Millionaire Mindset. And before you go to bed, program your subconscious mind for success and wealth. Keep doing this. I know you guys are already doing it. Keep it up. Remember the 1%. This is what's going to make the difference in the long run. Right? Keep going into Sifu's teachings. We watch this week's class when you get the replay. Binge watch Netflix and chill. Minimum of how many videos a day? Minimum of how many videos a day? Boom. 10. Minimum is 10. That's a minimum. Okay? Especially the ones on copywriting, high ticket sales, and productivity. Number 3, read one of these books. And more importantly, apply these books. If you're reading One Sentence Persuasion, find a way to apply on the principles. Dazzling dialogue, start using dialogue. Apply it in your writing. If you're just reading it and not applying it, it's just gonna go in one ear and go out the other. All right, apply these. And number 4, keep hand copying. Right, 30 minutes, 60 minutes a day. Keep up the 1% improvements. Which part can you use for swipe to landing pages? Headlines? Which bullets can you use? Are there any stories you can use for your emails? Right, keep these in mind. And I swear, please, I don't know why I have to motivate people, but just hand copy. This is a single most simple way to get good at copywriting, and almost nobody sticks with it. Almost nobody sticks with it. They stick with it when it's sexy. They stick with it when it feels like they're getting results, but you gotta stick with it. It's like going to the gym. You ask anybody who's a bodybuilder, they tell you what's the secret. They just tell you, oh, I just go to the gym 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. And you're like, must be genetics. Right? No. Keep hand copying every day, 30 minutes a day minimum. Okay? Like, that really doesn't change my life, but I just get frustrated when people don't do like the simple things that will get them what they want, and then they complain later on. It makes no sense to me. All right? So do it. Number 5, write your own landing page. Okay? Let's say we have a free training for HIC students who might be experiencing some lower self. How would you write the landing page? What would the headline be? What would the bullets be? What the call to action be? All right, write out the full landing page, just like we did today. And because you're HIC students yourself, you're in a community of HIC students, you know everyone, the research is almost already done for you. All right, so just focus on the headline, focus on bullets, focus on what you learned today. Sound cool? All right, put dope in the chat one last time. Great. Step 5, write your own emails. Or, yeah. For the same HIC students who are experiencing lower self, write emails to them, right? And the call to action is going to be mindset training, right? Write the problem, agitate, solution email, write the empathy email, write a story email. Does that make sense? Perfect. Submit all your assignments to assignments@highincomecopywriters.com. It helps if you put it into Google Docs and you make the Google Doc available for anyone to access. So that way, if we go into it, we can actually see what you wrote. All right. And any admin technical questions, email support@download.com, et cetera, et cetera. And now the important announcement. Are you guys ready for this? Are you guys ready for the important announcement? Good. Week 5. You will receive an email around the same time the class replay is sent to you. It's going to have a unique link inside. And you're going to fill in your address at the unique link inside the email for your certificate. Now, you wouldn't want high income copywriter certificate, would you? All right. Once you receive that email, okay, when are you going to receive the email? Around what time? Yes, around the same time the replay comes. You have a unique link inside, and you have about 2 weeks after to complete a testimonial with the deadline in the email. All right. Do not wait for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the final deadline. That means if you submit after 2 weeks, you ain't getting the certificate. And then don't come to us crying, because we don't tolerate people who are late. Okay? Is that clear? That is dope, because we hold people accountable. All right? And it must be through the unique link. Must be through a unique link inside the email for us to receive it. Do not email this, your address, to support@downlock.com or assignments@highticketsales.com. All right? Do not email to those addresses. Use it through the link inside your email. That makes sense? The instructions will be inside the email you receive. Cool. Are you guys ready? Week 5 is over. We got week 6, we got week 7, and you guys keep your attendance rate up above 80. We are getting what? What are we getting if we hit it above 80? Boom, exactly. Class 8, bonus week 8 if we hit above 80. All right. So go do your homework. Tame your lower self. If your lower self is strong, come back to community. Don't be a lone wolf. Keep working hard at it. Don't take the assignments lightly. Keep working at it. And you're just going to be so thankful that you kept pushing. And we'll see you guys later. See you guys in class 6.